Hello, and welcome to the Loop Marketing's Business Rebound, how to market your small business in our current reality. My name is Ashley Sterling. I am the Director of Operations at the Loop Marketing. Feel free to join us in the conversation online if you have a Twitter. Our handles are at the Loop Connect and at Gusto with Ashley. But of course, if you have any questions following this webinar, feel free to reach out to us on Twitter or via our website. All of this information is going to be readily available here at the bottom of each slide. So really the purpose of this webinar is to cover a couple of pretty straightforward questions. You know, how do I make my business an online presence? Is a website really that important? What about SEO? Should my business use all social media platforms? Should I do email marketing? Do I have to write blogs? And is Google really that important? So these are some pretty straightforward questions. And the reason we chose these questions is primarily because of how many marketing technology tools there are available online today in 2020. To quickly give you a number, there are roughly 8,000 tools to use online right now for marketing. 8,000 tools. So we wanted to go over some of the basics, some of the strategies that we recommend depending on what kind of business you have, and really just kind of give you a really good place to launch from. And in terms of where do I start or where do you start, one thing that we've really noticed in the last decade, especially with brick and mortar or a startup that you're maybe starting in your backyard or your garage or a second bedroom, the agenda for making yourself a digital presence has really been pushed. The call for digital was there before 2020, but now is needed more than ever. So many small businesses found that their largest pain point in the transition from, let's say, a physical presence to a digital presence was that they felt left behind or out of the loop. Sorry, pun intended. But to let you in on a little secret, most companies, when they're making the transition from traditional marketing to digital marketing, feel this way. They feel unprepared or unsure. They often establish their company using methods that they grew up with or maybe more comfortable with. This will typically include mail campaigns, billboards, commercials, or community pin boards at your local community center. But fear can stop progression, and often this is where the problem lies. So again, we want to provide you with some resources today, some quick how-tos or whys, and then follow up with more information following this webinar. So we felt like the best place to start this webinar was by discussing websites. A high-quality website is one of the most important first steps if you don't already have one that you can take. Everyone can have a social presence, but without a good website, you'll likely be looked over. In fact, there are 1.8, or nearly, as of yesterday, 1.8 billion websites on the internet. 1.8 billion websites. However, 46% of small businesses don't have a website. That's 46%. So 64% of small businesses do have a website, but there's still 46% that don't. So if you expect to be able to compete or strive for your competitor's business or your business and be able to be as successful as possible, we strongly recommend having a reliable website. There have been plenty of website creative DIY tools like Squarespace and Wix. They've been popping up for the last few years and advertising that they're making web creation easy, and they do. However, it's really important that a website is mobile friendly. Mobile is incredibly important. So in terms of what our recommendation is, if you're looking at Wix, if you're looking at Squarespace, if you're looking at WordPress, GoDaddy, the list can go on and on. Again, there are 8,000 tools. Remember, not just for web creation, but there are 8,000 tools. What we generally recommend at the Loop Marketing would be WordPress. And these are 4 reasons why. A, you can create a SEO presence using free plugins like Yoast. SEO is search engine optimization, and if you strive to have more of a competitive streak with your competitors, or if you want to rank, or if you are, again, striving to be as successful as possible, SEO is a strategy that is not one to look over. It is something that needs to take time, do your research. Again, you can also consult with us. We are very focused on SEO for our clients because it does result in results, in ranks, in numbers, in links, in more reliability from Google. And that's the most important thing right now. But it's also mobile friendly. WordPress will create or provide, with templates that are mobile friendly. If you're not in the position to hire a company to build a custom website, the latest themes will hold you over as we work through this transitional period in 2020 and into 2021. Your website is often the first impression that your business gives to potential clients. So having one that is easy to work with, easy to navigate is incredibly important. And WordPress will also give you the ability to transition easier in the future. If you do start working with a company that wants to build a website for you, a custom website, WordPress is one that can be utilized in custom themes, can build out a specific, functionality that you're looking for, where Squarespace and Wix really, they work to limit you in terms of how your website can be used. They don't want you to transfer from from Wix and Squarespace into something like WordPress or GoDaddy. They want you to stay there as long as possible. I mean, that's their business model, which completely fair. But if you are striving to make a lasting impression into the future, to move away from pre-built themes, to have something that is more compatible with the quickness in which phones change or tablets change or computers change, WordPress is our recommendation. Next up, we have social media. Now, this is probably one of the more popular topics that we discuss with clients, or even those that we have consultations with. Social media is one of the largest and most of the time free platforms that you can use to market your small business or nonprofit. But to start, social media is not for every business. It is, if it makes sense for your industry or your audience or your clientele, look at the various platforms that are available and choose accordingly. If you don't want to overexert yourself by spreading yourself too thin on platforms, look at what your clientele uses. Ask yourself this question: does social media make sense for your industry or audience or clientele? If the answer is no, it's ultimately up to you. But if the answer is no, we recommend that you not overexert yourself by having a social media presence if it doesn't make sense. However, depending on your business model, if you have a B2B business, which is business to business, you can aim for platforms like Facebook and LinkedIn. These are often looked at as a more business-centric, and I don't want to use the word professional, but just a more serious platform or platforms. And if you have a B2C business, which is business to customer, then get more personal with Instagram and Twitter. A great example of the uses of social media would be if you have a restaurant or if you have a bed and breakfast or something that is visually appealing. You want people to relate or visualize themselves using your product or eating your food or staying at your bed and breakfast. Take pictures. take pictures, share it, get personal, ask them to use a specific hashtag. We'll go into this a little bit more further in the webinar, but it allows you to make it just a little bit more personal and not so, please come and order our food. Whereas Facebook and LinkedIn, if you have industry expertise, if you are positioned in a way where you want to inform your clients that, maybe a recent protocol from the government has changed, or maybe something that relates to, we could even use fire safety, or specific tools that are needed for a specific type of job. Facebook and LinkedIn are oftentimes where you want to showcase that kind of information. It's more text-centric, text, not tech, more text-centric, and it allows you to speak directly to experts in your field and your clients. They know what you're talking about, whereas Facebook or Instagram and Twitter will allow you to kind of have a little bit more of a personality in terms of more fun, more lights, more engaging. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the choice is yours. These are just some of our general recommendations. If you are running it by yourself, we don't want you to spread yourself too thin. Social media, there's a lot. There's a lot out there. I mean, we didn't even mention TikTok or Snapchat. Social media is moving constantly. So, it allows your potential clients really to be on a familiar platform that they're used to. They're going to have an account on one of these platforms. So if you have created a consistent and interesting social media presence, this is going to encourage a potential client or customer to see you as a reliable resource. And again, only do it and only push yourself if it makes sense for your industry. Don't feel like you need to be on everything at one time and run yourself into the ground. Next up, we actually have something that's fairly similar to email marketing or social media marketing, and that's email marketing. Now, before we get into it, stop for a quick second. Ask yourself these 3 questions. Does it make sense for your industry? Does it make sense for your sales? Do you have a list of contacts? Email marketing is not for everyone. It's very similar to social media in that if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. If you're an e-commerce business, for example, having a monthly specials email is great for your customers. Additionally, if you often make announcements or write blogs or provide information that your audience finds interesting, email marketing is a great platform for you. In fact, we would recommend that you use MailChimp. There's a free version for a certain number of contacts. It's easy to use, it's reliable, and there are easy to read stats and analytics after you send an email. So you can check how many people opened it, how many people unsubscribed, how many people clicked through it. Email marketing is actually it's not controversial, but there was a question that was posed to us in early 2019 of, is email marketing dead? We actually have a blog written about it. It is available on our website. And our answer is no. Email marketing is one of the most underutilized platforms in the world. And oftentimes it's a free platform to use. Now, there are some privacy changes that happened in January. So if you are going to start an email marketing campaign or email marketing strategy, make sure you check out those various privacy settings and make sure that you're following them closely, strictly for your business's protection. And then video marketing. This is actually one of my favorites because it oftentimes it makes people uncomfortable, but it's so key right now to marketing in general. We all feel uncomfortable in front of the camera at first. Most of us didn't grow up with a computer in our back pocket. so when you're looking to make a brand or a company or a nonprofit more personable, pulling out your phone and sharing a quick Instagram or Facebook story, adds a certain invitational level to your audience. It makes them feel like they're part of something, of the action, of your company. So this is a rough stat from Forbes. It's a rough stat in that more than 66% of consumers prefer video over reading. Guilty. I am very guilty of this. I am constantly on YouTube, constantly looking for um, uh, audio or visual representations of items I want to learn or strategies I want to cover. So video marketing is really important. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's one thing that I really want you to stop and absorb. It doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't have to be the end all be all. It doesn't need to be a Spielberg production. You don't need to have uh, like a Star Wars intro, right? It just needs to be genuine. People want to see it genuine, or a genuine video. They want to feel, again, part of what you're working on, part of your company, part of who you are as a small business or nonprofit. They want to understand what your goal is, what your mission is, where you come from, everything. So any details that you can give to them via a video is going to make your marketing campaign more successful. In terms of video marketing, there are a couple of different platforms too that you can use. Of course, there's YouTube. That's my go-to. That's our go-to. You can also share videos on Facebook and Instagram. We do recommend that if you work through creating kind of a rhythm with video marketing, upload the videos directly to that social platform. If you have various platforms, make sure you're uploading directly to YouTube. Make sure you're uploading directly to Facebook and directly to Instagram. Instagram does have some time constraints, so keep that in mind as you're working through. I believe it's 30 seconds or less for Instagram. However, Facebook and YouTube don't have a time limitation. But by uploading video directly to a social platform, what you're going to achieve there is more of it's a video that is custom for that platform, right? So if you have a YouTube video, it's going to be formatted for YouTube. If you have a Facebook video, it's formatted for Facebook. So if you're looking at making sure that your video is utilized as much as possible, upload it directly. Now, when it comes to bringing in audiences from offline to online, oftentimes people will search for a business or a keyword on Google and will be able to find what they're looking for using that keyword. So, for example, if I wanted to find a pizza restaurant here as close to me as possible, I'm going to search for a pizza restaurant. Now, in terms of content marketing, though, if I wanted to look up a question, maybe how to create the best Chicago pizza at home, right? There's a lot of at-home searches happening right now with COVID-19. So if you want to bring that offline audience online, if you want to allow yourself to be in the position of being an expert, of marketing yourself in that way, content marketing is a very strong and powerful tool if it's done correctly. Now, 80%, according to Forbes, 80% of small businesses crash and burn within the first 18 months. That's a lot. That's the majority. But if you do strive to use these tools that we're giving you, you are setting yourself up for success. You are establishing yourself as the expert that you are. You are showcasing your businesses or nonprofits' difference, and that is incredibly important. When it comes to content, you want to make it worth the reader's time. Having a generic blog on a generic topic is not going to drive traffic to your site. Case in point, I love BuzzFeed, but they do have so many top 10, top 5, top 35 topics, and generally they're just lists, and millennials and Gen Z love lists. I'm very guilty of loving lists. However, if you are a small company that's just getting off the ground, or even if you're an established small company, trying to compete with someone like BuzzFeed isn't going to work. It's just save yourself some time and focus on answering a question that your audience is looking for. find a specific topic that you know more about that is often searched for online, or even something that maybe you can work with another expert in your field in terms of collaborating. What you want to do is you want to provide interesting, unique information that is going to be worth the reader's time. Again, if we step back and talk about the video marketing stat, 66% of people want to review content in a video format versus reading about it. So that's something that's worth noting. If you want to create content, if you want to make sure that it is worth their time, keep that in mind. Keep in mind that they might have just come from watching a video. Keep in mind that they may have looked at it from that kind of perspective. Make it worth their time. If you don't have the time to write a blog, don't panic. And again, if you only write a blog if it makes sense for your business. You know, if you are a restaurant, a blog might make sense. But if you're someone who is maybe in physical therapy or is a personal trainer, having a blog would make sense for you. You want it to be more of a personable aspect, more of a personal invitation to your audience. So keeping that in mind is really important. But at the end of the day, we're all incredibly busy. So by not having the time to write, don't worry. There are options out there for freelancers: Upwork, Fiverr, and Craigslist. You know, maybe Craigslist would be kind of a last resort, but we would recommend Upwork, certainly Fiverr. This is where you'll be able to find someone who is in your industry, in your niche, and be able to speak to it in a professional way, using your voice. Your voice is very key here. We want to make sure that you are represented as much as possible. It is your business, it's your nonprofit, it is your mission, your voice, your goal. So keep that in mind. Now, graphic design. Graphic design kind of comes with all of the things that we just talked about. So social media, email marketing, video creation, and content creation. And don't panic. If you're not a creative person, if you don't have a graphic designer on staff, or you don't have a creative bone in your body, don't panic. In terms of going through what different solutions are, there are plenty. But one of the most creative ones that you can use is using your phone. Again, we kind of touched on this a couple of points ago. If you have a restaurant, or if you sell a specific type of product, if you have a bed and breakfast, use your phone. Capture what the experience is going to be for your audience. And if that isn't really a solution, then ask your customers or your clients to share photos of their experiences with you. Ultimately, the goal is to make it real. You want to make it real from using stock images. In fact, we actually wrote a blog that came out in April, the web design trends of 2020, and one of the key differences this year that we have seen over the last couple of years is using more authentic photos than using generic photos, generic stock photos. You can probably see the same two people on 99% of the websites that are out there. And again, there's 1.8 billion websites. So think about that. By having your own photos, your own authenticity, you will be able to be in a position of sharing the experience of working with you, of purchasing from you, of ordering from you, of being involved with your business or your nonprofit. It makes it feel more connected. And that is what the audience is looking for these days. They want to feel like they are part of something. Case in point, we actually have a couple of photos on our website, on our About Us page, that we had asked a lot about. And this is one of the photos. This is a photo of me. This photo was taken on a Google Pixel. And yes, I am serious. So this was taken on a phone with a ring light. It's mildly touched up on the phone within its own editing settings, but this was not taken by a professional photographer. So this is just a great example of we needed to have photos. We wanted to have photos. We didn't have the time to hire a photographer. So we made it authentic by having our own photos. This is actually what the phone was my colleague Emily's phone. Thank you, Emily, for being our photographer. But it is a great example just to show that the technology that is in your back pocket, in fact, there's a saying: the technology that's in your back pocket is more powerful than the rocket that sent Armstrong to the moon. Just think about that for a second. take that take that in. Just kind of absorb that for just a second. If you have read our blog, there are a couple of more points in there that you can use. Ask for photos, ask for experiences, share them on your site and on your social media. Again, you want to showcase your services or products and give it to your audience. You want to encourage them to be engaged with your business, and you want to share. You don't want to keep it secret. You want to share it with them. And that is very important in terms of the overall brand voice or business voice that you give to yourself and to your business. Finally, in terms of our last tool, this is one of the most important tools. Google is king. At least for right now. Google is king. So if you have a small to medium business, or if you have a nonprofit, it is vital that you get yourself on Google My Business. Now, this is only if you have a business location. That doesn't include your garage. That doesn't include your second bedroom. It needs to be a business or office location in order for it to qualify for Google My Business. Now, this was pre-COVID, so there's a chance that they change in the future, but I wouldn't count on it. I would plan to have a Google My Business account set up if you do have a brick and mortar, a restaurant location, or an office location outside of your home. Now, here's an interesting stat from PwC. According to them, 70% of consumers use their phone to find the nearest store. How many times have you searched for restaurants near me? The businesses that pop up on Google have a Google My Business account, and that has qualified them to be clearly and distinctively displayed in your search results. So if you want a little bit more detail, if you want to dive into Google My Business a little bit more, we have another blog that's focused on Google My Business and Google Maps and how to get yourself on there. Again, these resources will be available in an email following this webinar, but it is vital. It is vital, if you have a location, to make sure that you are accurately and correctly put on or included in Google My Business. And one thing that's worth noting, make sure the details that are listed in Google My Business match exactly what is on your website. Address, phone number, those details, you need to have them concrete. It's very important so that Google can recognize you're here and this is your website. It all comes down to reliability to Google. So make sure that you cross your T's, you dot your I's, and confirm that your information is identical. And then finally, now this is my favorite tool in the world, the king of all kings in terms of modern data collection, Google Analytics. Now that you have a beautiful website, it's important to install either a Google Analytics plugin, which is available in WordPress, or, if you know how, install it on your site. There are plenty of how-to walkthroughs online. Even Google Analytics will supply you with a how-to. This platform is free, and it provides you with all of the traffic information you could possibly need while you're in the stage of establishing your online presence. Make sure to install Google Analytics as soon as possible if it isn't already. It's free, again, easy to install or add in a plugin. It's reliable, and it gives you so much data. So much data. It's almost mind-boggling how much data it gives you. So in terms of moving forward with what to look at. This will provide you with how many visitors you have, what kind of visitors, where are they coming from? Are they coming from your social platforms? Are they coming from your email newsletter? Are they coming from a search result? What are they searching for? What questions can you answer that maybe haven't been answered yet by another expert in your field? Google Analytics, if you're not going to use any of the other tools, but you have a website that we've mentioned today, Google Analytics. I'm telling you, one more time, Google Analytics. So, in conclusion, the tools that we strongly recommend that you start with or work with, if it makes sense for your industry: high quality website, social media marketing, email marketing, content marketing, graphic design, and Google. It's Google My Business and Google Analytics. My name is Ashley Sterling. Thank you so much for working with me throughout this webinar. While there is, construction happening in the background, again, we're all working from home. We would appreciate if you gave us a shout at the Loop Connect at Gusto with Ashley and include the hashtag TLM Lunch and Learn. Feel free to, if we don't get a chance to answer your question today, send us an email. Connect with us on our social media platforms. Connect with us on our website, theloopmarketing.com. We're more than happy to answer any questions you have or consult with you and see what strategies may be best for your business. Thank you again. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. Stay safe out there, and we will talk very soon.